Hello again. I'd like to talk to you about my radio show. I've been doing it for over a year now. It's called Journey into an Unknown World, and it's on Web Talk Radio. So, what have I been doing? Well, basically, I've been trying to help people to see another point of view. For example, if you're angry with someone because they didn't put something away in the cupboard, but left it out for you to put away, what other kind of point of view could you have? For example, are you too tidy and need to learn to be a little untidy occasionally? Or maybe you're too fastidious about the way you put things in the closet that no one else knows where anything is. There could be 101 reasons why people think differently from you, but what I'd like to point out now is that you can never walk in the shoes of someone else. You might be able to identify very many similar things, and you might be able to agree on many, many issues. But when it comes down to it, your point of view on how you see your life is going to be very different from how someone else sees your life, and vice versa. So what I do on Journey into an Unknown World is take different topics and try and help people understand that there is a normal and an abnormal point of view, if you like. There are also the paranormal points of view. One of the first shows that I did was on obesity. In fact, I think that was the first show. And when you stop and think how many Americans are overweight, and then think about how many restaurants serve us enormous plates of food, and then think something like, what would you do with all the food that you've eaten all week if you could see it on the table in front of you all at one time? What would you say to yourself? Would you change your point of view? Would you say to yourself, wow, I can't believe I ate so much food? Now let's be a little gross and say what goes in has to come out. Have you ever stopped to think about how much goes down that toilet? You know, not everything that we eat is needed by us. Well, it's the same with things you own. How many things have you bought this year that you thought you really needed, and yet you've hardly used them at all? They're sitting in a cupboard somewhere, or even on the table staring at you every day. How many of those things could you give up? How many of those things do you actually realize you don't need and never did need, and have spent all your money on things that you could have saved and done without? Let's go another way, and let's say, how many conversations have you had with people where you thought that sharing your point of view was the most important part of the conversation, instead of stopping to think how much of what you was hearing was helpful and more important than your opinion? Let me give you another one. How much of your religious philosophy controls you to the point of routines and rituals? What would you be like if you'd been brought up in a different faith or a different country and had a different point of view? One of the things I like to share is, for example, in Africa, in order to protect yourself from mosquito bites and to also keep the body protected from the sun, the natives there get urine from their cow, cover them all over with it, and then put dust on top. And do you know what they tell one another? You smell beautiful today. What would they say if they smelled the perfume that women wear? You know, would they like that? Or would they be saying, yuck, how could you walk around smelling like that? You see, It's all about what we believe, what we think. You know, when we're born, we come into this world with an empty brain. Basically, all we have is the flight or fight coding buried within our deep subconscious, and in there is all our spiritual wisdom, all our knowledge, all our divine essence, but it's dormant. We're like a sponge when we're born. We open up our minds to everything, and at the same time we open up our heart and we feel. We feel everyone that's around us all the time, and we're very careful to make sure that we try and understand what we feel. But when we discuss what we feel with someone else, they may well tell us that what we feel isn't real, that we have a wild imagination, that we're going into a world that doesn't exist because the person we're talking to doesn't have the same emotions or the same idea. And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to justify what we feel and what we think. We're trained to fit in with everybody else's idea, believe everyone else's philosophy and theology. And so we tell ourselves, this is my belief, this is how I think, and this is how I feel. Well, right now, the earth is in revolution, and everyone on this planet is saying, I want to think for myself. I want to feel for myself. I want to do things my way. Now, of course, when we think that, we're trained to say, and I want to make everyone else listen to me, and I want everyone else to agree with me, and I want everyone else to absolutely understand my point of view as though they are walking in my shoes. And when they don't, when they disagree, when they say they have their own ideas, we get angry, very angry. And when we get very angry, unfortunately, we get violent. I'm very sad to say that at this time, there's a tremendous amount of violence in this world. And yes, we all talk about peace, but how can we have peace between nations if we can't have peace within ourselves? How can we have peace within our families first? Well, my suggestion to you is that you stop and hear what people are saying, and then really listen. Listen to their tones, their resonation, the way they pronounce words, the emphasis on the way those words fall out of their mouth. The other day I was with someone, and I asked her how she was, and she smiled sweetly, and she said, I'm okay. And I said, what's really wrong? You see, her voice didn't go up, it went down. And when we turn our voice down, we're saying, hey, I'm not happy. Think about children when they're delighted. They squeal. They let their voices rise several octaves. It might be piercing to our ears, but to them, it's a moment of joy. Stop and think about your own voice. Are you melodious the way you talk? I like to think that my voice goes up and down, so I'm melodious. I like to think that I sing a lot. But you know, when I'm miserable, then my voice becomes monotone like this, and I'm talking like this, and who understands me? No one. I'm not interesting, because my voice is flat. You know, dialogue is important. We need to stop yelling and shouting at one another. We need to listen to those tones, those resonations, those vibrations, and really hear the signals in the voice. And we need to look at the person when we're talking to them. We need to notice whether they frown, raise their eyebrows, scowl. We need to look at the eyes. The eyes are the mirror image of the soul. If you're lying, your eyes tell everyone you're lying. And if you're lying about how you feel and how you think, then everyone knows you're lying to yourself as well as to everyone else. Now, if you're lying to yourself, how can anyone trust you to trust them? You see, if we want to have the support and guidance of our friends and family, then we have to earn it. That's what they say. You've got to be good in order to get the support. So my point of view here to shift your awareness is to say, be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself all the love and support you need. Don't ask other people to give it to you, because they may be slow in responding. Too slow for you. You don't want to be impatient anymore, and you don't want to be worrying about what they're up to. So pay more attention to what you're doing. Now, some may say you're selfish, but actually you're being kind to them in the long run, because if you're happy and you're busy doing all the things that you want to do, they don't have to worry about you anymore. So that leaves them freedom of time to do something they need to do. Now, if they are not positive, they're likely to come back on you and say, hey, I need your attention again, and play the games again. So you have to be strong, and you have to say, hey, I'm not playing that game. I'm not going to try and fit your ideas about how I should be. I'm going to be who I want to be. And if you don't like me the way I am, well, there's lots more people that will like me. And I trust myself to find those people. After all, birds of a feather flock together. Have you ever found people who are talking about peace and harmony arguing with someone over philosophy and theology? I bet you have. I know I have. And the interesting thing is, during that time I was watching, as a psychologist, I was watching them. And they knew I was watching them, and they knew that I was impartial to what they were saying. And one by one, they all tried to drag me into their side of the argument. They all wanted me to prove them right. And of course, I refused. You don't have to prove anybody right. You don't have to support anyone in their ideas, their thoughts. If you have more things to do yourself, you need to take time out to spend time on your own projects and your own ideas. I'd like to finish this by suggesting that you learn to meditate, and in learning to meditate, understand how everyone goes into some kind of hypnotic state when they're doing that. Now stop and think about people who are arguing, yelling and screaming. I'm sure you don't think of that as a state of hypnosis, but I'm here to tell you it is, because they're just in the moment, spilling out all the feelings, and in that highly charged moment, they are sensory to everything that's going on around them from their point of view. What does that mean? They're feeling that they are in control and in command, and the more they yell and scream, the more they actually realize that they're not in command. So they're losing the battle. And when that happens, there's a subtext going on in the hypnoidal state that says, prove the point. Prove it to yourself that what you say is really your truth. And if it is your truth, live it yourself. Practice what you preach and teach. Over the years, I've tried to be a model for all these kinds of things. I do lots of reading and counseling for people all over the world. And I'm happy to say that people who come to me are ready to listen to themselves, and as a result of that, are ready to receive help. Don't be someone that sits in misery, goes round in circles, justifying, rationalizing, explaining yourself away to everyone else in the hope that they may be supportive to you. Take a deep breath. Realize that only you can get yourself up out of your chair, out into the world, and make something perfect happen. And to do that, you must challenge yourself. Find passion, desire to go out there and be something you want to be. Not to please someone else, not for their purpose or their reason, but for your own. I chose at a very young age, because of my psychic skills, to be a healer. I've never drifted away from that idea. Everything that I do is around healing the whole person. If you like to know more, please go to my radio show and listen. There's about 30 shows there now. You can learn a lot if you want to. That show is all about sharing and teaching what I know. It's, let me think now, http://www.webtalkradio.net/journey into an unknown world You can see that on the link below. I just said it out loud because if I say it out loud, you're hearing the vibration of the show and you're going to remember it. Whereas it's just written, it's just words on a page. So I hope you'll go to my show and listen and give me feedback, because I love feedback. I like new topics. So if you've got some interest, please write to me. You can write to me at Dr. Margaret at Gmail. No, let's start again. Dr. Margaret Rogers Vancoubs at gmail.com. Okay, that's for the program and that's for my questions. So hope you'll contact me, and I'll see you again when I do another video. So until then, keep smiling.